Hello. We are here for a late night edition of the Deep and Connected live stream. Oh man, we've got a lot to cover. There's a lot going on in the macro environment. Tomorrow is obviously the Fed meeting. I think we know that there's going to be a rate cut at this point, but I think the big question is really around QE and what we can expect to see there. I'm going to break down what the expectations are. There's some different varying reports coming out as far as that goes. We've got a lot of stuff happening in the crypto space with banks, guys, and different services that are going to be offered. Massive news that's not really hitting the mainstream media, of course, right? They like to FUD our bags right now. Guys, the stage is being set for massive things to happen moving into next year, especially. We've got a bold prediction from the person with the highest IQ in the world, allegedly, on what's going to happen to Bitcoin. We're going to talk about some key levels there, what we might be able to expect tomorrow based on what we've seen with some of the prior FOMC meetings. There's also some indications that alts are starting to move a bit. So we'll talk about that. And I'm going to cover a bunch of updates on the defense side of things. So, man, a lot of stuff happening in the markets today. Let me go on X real quick and send out a post to let everyone know I'm live here. Woof. Who's with me tonight? I think Tyler said he's going to be in here. Send race to 0, he says. Well, we might have to wait till May for that. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well, what the incoming Fed chair might be willing to do. Touched on that a little bit recently, but man, some more news coming out on that too. So a lot of prep for the show tonight, but a lot of exciting things happening out there. Let's see here. Let me just put this post out. Let everyone know that I'm live here. Guys, if you are watching on, what do you mean my account's not allowed to repost this? Get out of here. If you guys are watching on X, make sure to retweet, like. If you're watching me on, oh, my X rugged, huh? I just got a mention of that. Let's see here. Oh. I don't know. It looks good on here. Is it back, Tyler? Oh, we're back. Okay. Anything new with GeoNet? There are some new things with GeoNet, actually. So we're going to cover that as well. All the main ones, guys, we're going to be covering in the show today. GeoNet, obviously, is a massive project. The growth trajectory they're seeing is crazy. Let me close my Telegram because it is making lots of noises. Look at this, catching alive. Welcome. We'll be talking about Aoki as well. We'll be talking about all the deepened projects. All right, guys, let's cover some broader news, though. This is pretty wild. Have you guys been paying attention to what's happening in Japan right now? Just some broader news of the day. They got hit with a 7.5 magnitude earthquake. But they are now, this is like current as we speak, the government is putting out a notice that there could be a mega quake. I was like, what the hell is a mega quake? It's an earthquake over a 9 on the Richter scale. And I believe from a 7 to an 8 to an 8 to 9 is like 10 times more damage. They're saying that it could cause a 98-foot tsunami in the region. Kills many as 199,000 people, man. This is 198 billion in damages. Let's hope that does not happen. Thoughts and prayers to the people in Japan, man. Holy shit, that's wild. Some other news. This just came in tonight, guys. The election for the mayoral election for Miami, first time in over 30 years a Democrat has won. So I'll tell you what, man. If this is any indication of what's coming in the midterms next year, boy, oh boy, the Republicans have to be a little concerned about that. So that is a big change there in Miami. You guys probably have heard about the Netflix deal. So this broke, I think, late last week. So yeah, last Friday, Netflix announced its plans to acquire Warner Bros. Studio streaming business for $83 billion. The boards of both companies approved the deal. This obviously faced quite a bit of backlash, guys. So we saw on one end, man, my computer is going slow. Let's see here. On one end, we had Elizabeth Warren was talking about this looks like an anti-monopoly nightmare. They could force you into higher prices, fewer choices over what and how you watch, and may put American workers at risk. Also went on to say, under Donald Trump, the antitrust review process has become a cesspool of political favoritism and corruption. I'm not a big Elizabeth Warren fan, but I have to say some of this stuff I do actually agree with here. On the other end of the spectrum here, you have Matt Gaetz, also very against this acquisition. Says Trump must stop this. Massive content distributor. And he says that it could turn into a woke nightmare for the media landscape. Well, Trump did make a statement on this. This is on Sunday. He said at an event that he said Netflix has a big market share and the firm's combined size could be a problem. And it says the planned deal, which has raised concern amongst people in the industry, is yet to be approved. Well, a new development in the story is that Paramount now has done what's called a hostile takeover bid. So the original Netflix acquisition was approved by the boards. They've just bypassed the boards. They actually went straight to the shareholders, offering $30 a share, so equivalent of $108 billion from Paramount. Obviously much larger than the $83 billion that was originally offered there. So here's where things get a little hairy. Okay. Oh man. So it says here that Trump says here, I will be involved in the decision. Okay. This is not something that the politicians are supposed to be inserting themselves into. Well, here's a little bit of background on Paramount. Okay. And here's why people are kind of up in arms a little bit. You guys remember Jared Kushner, of course, married to Ivanka Trump, Trump's daughter. He was part of the Affinity Partners here. They were a private equity firm that is part of the hostile takeover bid. Okay. Paramount is also led by David Ellison, whose father, Larry Ellison, is a major Trump supporter. It says that Affinity Partners, while they are included in this bid to take over Warner Bros., was not mentioned in Paramount's press release, nor were the sovereign wealth funds. Saudi Arabia, you have Abu Dhabi, you have Qatar, all of them are included in this hostile takeover, if you will. And it is drawing some eyeballs, guys. And if you remember earlier this year, well, the FCC approved the Skydance Media's $8 billion bid to acquire Paramount. So, of course, this is right after Paramount paid out a $16 million settlement to Trump over his lawsuit accusing 60 Minutes of deceptively editing an interview with then President Kamala Harris. So, as you can imagine, people are not really sure what to think about this. Now, it does say that if Netflix does end up taking over, they're likely going to raise prices, which is something they tend to do anyway. And they will have exclusive rights over a decade worth of movies, from Warner Bros. So I don't know. We'll see how this all plays out, but this is definitely drawing some criticism, no doubt about it. And I get it. Let's talk about NVIDIA. There's a lot going on with NVIDIA right now. Man, my computer is going crazy. The Fed is printing. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Fed right after this. But there's a couple of things here. I want to talk about NVIDIA and what's happening there, because that's a little complicated. It's the most valuable company in the world. It's important, guys. The other thing is a new BRICS currency and a blockchain, a layer one they're talking about using, which blew my mind. So we're going to talk about that as well. We need Elon to buy some GeoNet. Yeah, no kidding, man. Japan needs to stop their debt-based economy. They'll eventually, yeah, and interestingly, I read this book recently. One second. I just finished it, guys. They talk about just that. They talk about all the money printing. And Japan, man, Japan has just been printing forever. They've been keeping their rates low. It is an issue for them, but it's not so different from some of the stuff we've done frankly. Oh, man. Okay. Let's talk about NVIDIA. And this is a big deal, too. Where is NVIDIA? Boom. I got a lot of. There we go. Stick this up there. So this was the news, big news that broke. That U.S. is now saying they're going to allow NVIDIA to sell H200 chips to China. And NVIDIA really jumped up on this news. But there's quite a bit of history that needs to be broken down here because it's not that simple, guys. I covered this earlier, but a smuggling operation that was busted. So there were about $1 billion reportedly smuggled into China. This is obviously, the U.S. has been restricting sales of NVIDIA chips to the China for some time now. Basically, we're not allowing them to get access to the high-end chips. They're basically watered down, older technology. Says that back then, $1 billion worth of NVIDIA restricted AI chips were smuggled into China after the Trump administration further constricted chip exports. We had this news break like today that they found more smuggling. Says that I think this is a news story from earlier. Yeah, December 9th, guys. So that was earlier today. Says here, U.S. authorities announced Tuesday they've shut down yet another China-linked smuggling network that trafficked or attempted to traffic more than $160 million in export-controlled NVIDIA AI chips. Officials said, I guess that's who, and associates had exported or attempted to export at least $160 million with NVIDIA H100s and H200 chips. Now, this all led to anonymous sources. These are reports that came out after the summer when they showed that there was smuggling then. They said that the U.S. authorities are planting tracking chips in NVIDIA hardware as part of their investigation into the alleged smuggling of banned AI chips. Of course, Jensen Huang came out and said that we don't install secret tracking chips in our products. Well, following this taking place, China actually just not that long ago, maybe a month ago, banned a lot of their companies from buying NVIDIA chips because they thought that the U.S. was planting this stuff in their chips to track them. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not down with that, right? So fast forward now to what happened with Trump. So he says that in a statement, NVIDIA welcomed the decision, and this is, of course, Trump now offering H200, so removing some of these restrictions. Says that we applaud Trump's decision to allow Americans' chip industry.
From one hotel room to another one. This is the game changer.
Playing that. All right. Yeah, this stuff's jumping all over the place. President Trump announced Monday. So this is yesterday. The U.S. will permit NVIDIA to export its AI chips to China and other countries, partially reversing a Biden-era restriction on high-end chip exports. Again, this is the first time they've allowed this quality of chip to be exported to China. Trump said the U.S. will gain 25% share, so we're going to take 25% of the revenue from the H200 chip exports, and that trade will be closely monitored to safeguard national security. That part's key right there. Okay, so that's great. This is the great news. It was announced, all that. But one of the things I started questioning immediately, basically, is, okay, we knew about the smuggling operations. We knew they'd cut off purchases. So just because we're opening sales, does that mean that China's just going to start buying? And that's the big question here. So it does say here, reports had suggested that Beijing had prohibited local companies from buying the H20. That's the last one that we were allowing them to buy. NVIDIA is not baking in huge China sales in its forecast as a result. After the ban was lifted, Financial Times reported China would limit access to the H200. So it sounds like they're not necessarily going to be buying NVIDIA chips, even though we lifted this ban. And I know right now, I think, there's this AI bubble thing going on. We know how important it is to the economy, to the market right now. And NVIDIA has come out and even said, like, hey, like, you cutting off our access to sell into China is crushing us. I think this is definitely a way for us to try to keep the market going, okay? Because there are some things kind of breaking under the surface at the moment. Says that H200 is one of NVIDIA's most advanced chips, but China has been on a drive to wean itself off of American technology and boost local semiconductor development. So it says, while this move reopens the door for U.S. revenue, the strategic train has already left the station. So Wang, this is Jensen Wang, actually came out in an interview in May, and I remember watching this. He said that the Chinese tech giant semiconductor products for AI are already probably comparable. So China has kind of had to up their game in developing their own chips because they couldn't get access to the chips that, this has been going on for years now. We've restricted their purchasing of NVIDIA chips. So they're saying, hey, like they've already kind of gotten to this point where they can make their own. Now, that's debatable, okay? Because there's certainly other analysts that are saying the gap between NVIDIA, AMD, and Huawei, I forget how to say that. He said, and others, that's the Chinese manufacturer, is still quite wide. And it comes to performance and power efficiency. So but it does go on to say, even if Chinese firms begin buying NVIDIA's product, Beijing's longer-term trajectory is of self-sufficiency. They're trying to wean off of NVIDIA. They're trying to completely wean off of needing the U.S. in any way, shape, or form for their AI push. In the long run, for the next 5 to 10 years, China's self-reliant strategy for its own tech and innovation won't change. So Jensen Wang, NVIDIA has a good window to sell the H200, but it won't be forever. Okay, so that calls into question the valuation of NVIDIA. And then you add this that just broke this afternoon. It says NVIDIA chips being sold to China will undergo a special security review in the U.S. before they are exported. Says that the AI chips are part of a deal that are mainly manufactured in Taiwan. So that's TSMC, of course, that's responsible for 90% of the high-end world's high-end microchips. They make pretty much all of NVIDIA's chips. That's why we're trying to bring manufacturing and the foundries into the U.S. In Arizona right now. But it says that they will go from Taiwan to the U.S. for a national security review. Then the chips would then be sent to China. I have a hard time believing China is going to be like, oh, yeah, we're all about that. Like, yeah, I'm sure you're not going to be putting any tracking or anything in those chips. Sign us up. So that is why I think this news is being a little overblown and is not as great as people are making it sound. Okay. Robotics, AI, depend layer and layer ones from the main narratives for the next few years. I agree, man. So that's how I pronounce it, at least. Huawei. That's it. Huawei. I looked it up earlier and I forgot. All right. Let's talk about. We got Joe in the house. What's up, Joe? Let's go. Go back to the. What are you doing right now, Joe? What are you doing, buddy? No, I don't ever stop live streaming. I don't. Yeah, NVIDIA is a big deal, guys. They are the most valuable company in the world. So right now, our economy is very much dependent on really the top 7, top 8 companies. If we see the AI bubble burst, that's no bueno. No bueno. Joe is looking like he's building something. I don't know. Anyway, good to have you, Joe. How about this news? BRICS launched a gold-backed currency. Okay, it's called the unit. So they've been trying to de-dollarize for some time now. We'll talk about the details here and whether it's something to be concerned about today or not. And I tell you what, they are using a L1 chain that will blow your mind. It was very surprising to me. It says, as of December 8th, 2025, the BRICS Alliance, a block of 10 full members, they're about to add a lot more too, by the way. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, then Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and United Arab UAE rather, has launched the unit, aiming to hit the heart of Western monetary. Let's see. The concept centers on a gold-anchored digital instrument designed to reroute trillions in trade away from the U.S. dollar. Okay, so this goes on to talk about launching a pilot. So this is just on October 31st. They launched a pilot to test this unit. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The International Research Institute for Advanced Systems announced the initiative to build the blockchain-based settlement token, so it's me on the blockchain, on Cardano. Like, what? That's crazy. Positioning the project as a step towards alternative global financial architectures. The unit is a digital trade currency pilot created for settlement between BRICS economies. It holds value through a basket of local currency and physical gold. So it's 60% basket of their currencies of those countries, 40% backed by gold. And it really shouldn't be that surprising. We've seen this big run up in gold recently. Guys, China has been buying a shit ton of gold, man. They said they added 15 tons to the gold reserve in September. China added estimated 15 tons as central banks accelerated their purchases of the bullion after a seasonal summer lull. It says the bank's calculation compares only 1.24 that China officially reported for the month, but analysts estimated that central banks globally bought 64 tons in September, more than tripling from the month before. The buying spree is continuing in November. Y'all, this is pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. It says we continue to see elevated central bank gold accumulation as a multi-year trend. There's a big reason why we're seeing gold explode the way it has. Anyone check to see if Fort Knox gold is still there? They got really quiet about that all of a sudden. That's a little scary, isn't it? So China's been adding gold. They are looking to launch a BRICS currency. Why might that matter? Well, guys, this could impact markets in a big way. If you guys remember, this is back in January. Trump said if they try to do this, if they try to create a new currency, he's going to put 100% tariffs on all of them. They should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful U.S. economy. Shit. That's all I have to say about that. That's not great. Okay. Now, how is this going to impact U.S. dollars and international trade? I mean, for all of the noise right now, it stayed pretty consistent. I mean, we're at like 66% of global trade still done with U.S. dollars. So I don't think it's something to be super concerned about today, but it is certainly something we need to keep an eye on, especially if Trump decides that he's going to go, off the rails about this and put tariffs all over everyone again. That would certainly suck. So we'll see. Interestingly, guys, about a year ago, I put out this video and I talked about just this. I talked about how they're going to introduce new currency backed by gold, potentially Bitcoin. So quite a prediction there. Seems like it is coming to fruition. Gold's not the only thing running, though. How about freaking silver? Guys, we broke a multi-decade trend line, and this thing is off to the races. I've been covering gold, or I've been covering gold and silver, but silver a lot this year. I was pretty vocal about when I bought the 2X silver leveraged fund. And guys, I mean, we're sitting at $61.22. That thing has been absolutely going crazy. And I think precious metals have been on quite a run. I mean, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, but I do believe that really precious metals, commodities, I think are going to do quite well now and into the future. So this is pretty wild to see this type of a trend on this chart as one of the cleanest setups and really all of investments right now. All right, let's talk about crypto. What we got here? The unit to be successful, it would need to be mass adopted and across countries. Just unlikely to stick long term unless you say Trump goes nuclear again. Yeah, look, I agree. I don't really think it's a huge concern today. But you see the trajectory we're on with the money printing and everything. If they do launch this currency is backed 40% by gold, if it's on the blockchain and they can prove it, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's an immediate issue, but it is something to certainly keep an eye on. Let's talk about some crypto stuff, man. This came out today. The OCC confirms banks can act as intermediaries in crypto transactions. says the Office of Comptroller of the Currency has clarified that national banks may engage in riskless principal transactions involving crypto assets. Such transactions allow a bank to act as a principal between two customers, buying crypto from one while simultaneously selling to another. So the bank will not hold the assets in inventory. They'll basically be a broker for their clients. Says in March, the OCC removed prior requirements for banks to seek advance approval before engaging in certain crypto operations, signaling growing acceptance of digital assets in mainstream finance. So as banks are about to be effectively a broker for crypto assets for their clients. This, of course, is coming off the heels of Bank of America just last week saying that it's going to tell its clients to allocate 1 to 4% of their portfolio to digital assets. So this guidance applies under the Bank of America umbrella. Merrill, Bank of America Private Bank, and Merrill Edge, enabling more than 15,000 advisors previously restricted to recommend crypto proactively. This also just broke today. PNC Bank becomes the first major U.S. bank to offer eligible private bank clients direct Bitcoin trading through its platform, powered by Coinbase's infrastructure. So it allows qualified banks to buy, hold, and sell Bitcoin. So the details there. Direct spot Bitcoin trading is now eligible for PNC private bank clients. It's the first U.S. bank to offer native access directly through its own digital platform. So it allows qualified banking clients to buy, hold, and sell Bitcoin without using an external cryptocurrency exchange. This is powered by Coinbase's crypto as a service infrastructure, which provides trading, custody, and settlement capabilities embedded directly within PNC's private bank online platform via its portfolio view interface. Man, that is nuts. Like, this is something that just a few years ago would have been unthinkable. And it's crazy, like everyone's just like fudding everything right now, but this is the type of stuff that's being announced. Also this week, CEOs of Citigroup, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo are invited to meet with senators to discuss the crypto market structure bill. So the Clarity Act that's coming up for a vote says that Tim Scott said in a statement that the Senate expects to vote on a digital asset market structure bill in December, with potential approval leading to the Senate floor early next year. This is also what Cynthia Lummis had to say about it. She was speaking. I was like, is this a new video? December 8th and 9th. So it's saying in the back there. So guys, they're pushing this thing forward. That is no audio. Shit. Well, yeah, let me reshare again. I got so many things open. Sometimes I lose the audio. Boom. Here we go. Is it working now? Can you hear it now? Sweet. No? Still can't hear? Weird. All right. Well, whatever. All right. So Cynthia Lumbus basically said, hey, this thing is moving forward. So you can just hear me. That's weird. It says on my sharing that the audio is coming through. All right. Well, in other news, and that is being pushed forward, guys. The Clarity Act is expected to be going up for a vote very soon. They said that it could get on Donald Trump's desk like the beginning of next year. So that's obviously massive. Guys, this is other big news. The CFTC on Monday, this is yesterday, launched a pilot program allowing select digital assets, Bitcoin, Ether, and USDC, to be used as collateral in U.S. derivatives markets. What? So the program is part of a broader push to give market participants clear rules for using tokenized collateral, including tokenized versions of real-world assets like U.S. Treasuries. Huh. How about that? Well, of course, this is also coming off the heels of this announcement that was last week. Bitnomial, well, I know you know about this, is a government-backed crypto exchange that's going to let traders access cryptocurrency trading in its most common form alongside perp, futures, and options. The company says debut is expected to take place this week, I believe. The exchange billed its debut as a watershed moment for crypto markets, arguing that Bitnomial is establishing a standard for cryptocurrency markets in America. Expected to hit $1 billion monthly, I think, as soon as like January on this platform. So, y'all, this is all getting set up. Like banks, you can have direct Bitcoin custody on in your bank. You're about to have a U.S. backed exchange. There are lots to allow you to use Bitcoin, ETH, and USDC as collateral. Like, what is happening? By the way, I signed up for Bitnomial. Let's go. William says, can't wait for the 60-40 tax treatment. Yeah, that's part of this as well. So you'll have, if you're a trader, this is huge. So 60% on long-term gains, 40% on short-term gains, regardless of how long you hold the asset. So that's obviously pretty solid there. Let's go. All right. Let's talk about the Fed tomorrow, guys. And then we'll get into more stuff with Bitcoin here. The Fed decision. I want to talk a little bit about what we can expect with this, because I think it's what the hell? Here we go. So tomorrow, FOMC meeting. Big deal. I think we all know at this point, 97% chance of a quarter point cut. Okay. The big thing to be paying attention tomorrow, though, is what does Jerome Powell say? I mean, what kind of future guidance does he give us? And we have some reports coming out. They're going in kind of blind without much data. We don't have full inflation data. We don't have full job data. There's a lot of stuff the government shut down, whether that's the real reason or if they're just holding back data because it doesn't look good. We don't really know. There's a lot of survey data that wasn't able to be collected because the government shut down. We do know this data came out today, talking about job openings. So 7.67 million open jobs versus estimated 7.15. So that's big. Says job openings moving higher is generally a positive sign for the labor market, suggesting employers still want to hire. However, the quits rate is falling to its lowest level since 2020. So typically, if people aren't quitting their jobs, that means that they are still concerned about finding a new job. So it does say the decline signals anxiety and caution beneath the surface. So the jobs picture is muddy overall. Okay, so we don't have complete data. And the expectation is that while we will get a quarter point cut, it's going to be a hawkish cut. In other words, we probably aren't going to get much info from Jerome Powell regarding any, high likelihood of future rate cuts. And this is kind of what we're seeing here. The 97% tomorrow. If we look out a little bit, January, pretty unlikely. I mean, now a 30% chance of a rate cut, 70% chance of no change. In March, a little further out, I think it's a higher likelihood. Now sitting at 45% of a cut of some sort. April, of course, this is the last FOMC meeting for Jerome Powell, because he'll be out after that. 38%. So it's looking less and less likely we'll see cuts after this. So it's going to be really important to pay attention to what he says. Now, what about the next Fed chair? It is looking like it's going to be Kevin Hassett. I've talked a lot about this recently. We have, for one, he is a dove, so he's likely to cut rates. He's likely to start up QE. He's also a crypto bull. He owns Coinbase stock. He owns crypto assets. That's all fantastic things. This report came out today about Kevin Hassett. He says signals openness to deeper rate cuts. Of course, this is brought up some question over the Fed's independence because it's supposed to be independent. There's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to have Trump telling the Fed chair what to do, even though he definitely tries. So they're like, hey, look, there's right now he's the White House National Economic Council director, Kevin Hassett, reportedly said on Tuesday that he sees plenty of room for the Fed Reserve to cut rates and would support reductions larger than 25 basis points if economic data justified it. He did go on to say, though, he would rely on his own judgment rather than political loyalty, even as Trump has made rapid rate cuts a key litmus test for selecting a new chair. So kind of has to say that, right? So kind of interesting. It does say here, and I thought this was some cool insight as well. Hassett argues, and this is about AI. So this kind of gives you an idea into what we can expect from him if he does take over in May. He says he argues that rapid advances in AI mirror the productivity boom in the 1990s, giving the Fed room to keep rates low despite tight labor markets. He goes on to say that AI's increase in, oh man, this is wigging out. What's going on? Says that his increase in productivity could lift potential GDP growth way north of 3% and possibly 4%. He added that lower rates could boost both supply and demand as new investments accelerate. So he's out here like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to let Trump tell me what to do, but here's the deal, guys. Well, I'm going to be cutting rates a lot. It's basically what he's saying. So that is what we could expect there. Now, not to be a Debbie Downer, guys. I think I need to bring this up, and then I want to talk about what reports are coming out as far as what Powell might say regarding QE. I'm going to take you through some of the history of what we've seen with QE, the repo market, and some other things that I think are important to understand. But Bitcoin, okay? And this is something we need to be aware of. I know every time the FOMC is like, hey, we're cutting rates, and was like, oh my God, Bitcoin's going to go crazy. And then they cut rates and it doesn't. And Bitcoin drops. And everyone's like, what's going on? Manipulation, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, these are the rate cuts of the year. This was no change. But guys, we saw a 6.36% decrease after the FOMC meeting, 5.62% after the FOMC meeting. This was a rate cut, 8.1% drop in Bitcoin following the FOMC meeting. And this last one, 12%. Okay, so not saying that's definitely going to happen, but I would not be surprised if it's a buy the rumor, sell the news event. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what Powell says and if he has any talk about quantitative easing. Okay, I think that's going to be the big thing to pay attention to. And that is what I want to talk about here is, will we see quantitative easing? So here's a good summary of what we're seeing right now. You just kind of touched on it. Auto loan collapse is already happening, guys. Yeah, things aren't looking super pretty. That said, Main Street's different than Wall Street, right? The stock market can do well for an extended period of time while people are struggling, and that's just the nature of the beast, man. But it says higher rates have taken a toll on small businesses where layoffs are happening. They also put stress on the bottom rung of households in the K-shaped economy. Whereas you can argue there has been an improvement for the upper rung. Recent credit card data tells a similar story. Credit card data, balances are going ballistic. People, it's kind of sad. So it says lower income consumers more often carry credit card balances and risk bumping up against their credit limits. But upper income consumers who are less likely to carry balances on their credit cards have been driving consumer spending. This is absolutely true. We are seeing the higher net worth individuals really carrying consumer spending at this point. Says the two economies make anything the Fed might say about its current $6.5 trillion balance sheet. And we're going to dig into this more in a minute here. Crucial for markets. Are they going to hold it flat or start growing? And that is the key question right there. This is what we need to be paying attention to. What does Jerome Powell say about this? I believe the FOMC announcement on the rate cut will be, I think, at 2 o'clock Eastern time. At 2:30, we'll get the statements from Jerome Powell. So what does he say about it? Now, here is what some analysts are saying, and I want to break down what this means. It says the favorable backdrop for assets comes as the U.S. Central Bank already reduced its roughly $9 trillion peak pandemic balance sheet by $2.5 trillion. And then, of course, quantitative tightening officially ended on December 1st. That was just 9 days ago. After pressures cropped up in overnight funding markets. Okay, so let's go over to the Fed balance sheet here to talk about what he just called out, basically. So we started QE right about here. Okay, so we're at $4 trillion on the Fed balance sheet. And then they went into this crazy QE. They bought treasuries, they bought mortgage-backed securities, and injected roughly $5 trillion, kind of, but $4 trillion to $9 trillion. So $5 trillion in QE. Okay. Of course, they reversed course. In 2022, they said, okay, we're going to start QT. We're going to start letting these run off the balance sheet. That's exactly what they did. So now we're sitting at about 6.5 trillion, a runoff of 2.5 trillion from the peak of 9 trillion. Okay, so going back to here, it's exactly what he said, right? 9 trillion peak. You see it on the chart. They ran off 2.5 trillion. And again, this is what he said up here. Current 6.5 trillion balance sheet. So what happens from here? It says it's important because the Fed has been vocal about wanting to avoid a repeat of the 2019 repo crisis. Okay, so a couple things here. For one, we had something called the reverse repo market here. Sorry, let me go over overnight reverse repo. So this is liquidity. They started leveraging this really after we had injected all that money into the economy. This is money that they pulled out of the banking system. Okay, so they hadn't really leveraged it. So as we push 5 trillion in, they offset some of that. They actually pulled about $2.5 trillion out in this reverse repo facility. Okay, so it's kind of a lever for them to offset some of the QE they were doing. So 2.5 trillion they were sitting on. So then again, we go back to this chart here, right? We're at 9 trillion. They let this run off. So effectively they're saying, hey, we took 2.5 trillion out of the economy, right? With QT, they're kind of offsetting that a bit because they had 2.5 trillion here that they pushed back into the economy. So at the same time that they were, I guess originally they pumped 2.5 trillion in. After that, they've been kind of neutral, right? They've pulled, 2.5 trillion back out with QT, but they also pushed it back in because they had pulled it out here. So they've been kind of neutral the last couple of years. Now, this was drained to zero. They can no longer push liquidity into the banking system using the overnight reverse repo. And now what we're seeing, because they stopped letting this run off, right? But our banks need liquidity. And this is where the actual repo market, not the reverse repo, not to be confused with that, but this is liquidity we've been pushing in since the reverse repo ran out. And you'll see that, there was one day where we had to push $29.4 billion into the banking system. And this is starting to get drawn on more and more. So if we look at this, this has been a growing theme. So this isn't necessarily QE. Basically, this is our banks like, hey, we need liquidity. We'll buy. So the government will buy their treasuries, but then the banks promise to buy back those treasuries. So it's kind of like a short-term liquidity injection. However, if we see a trend like this, then you can start kind of looking at it as QE. If this is a trend that we continue to see growing. Now, this is exactly what he was talking about here. He said, hey, they want to avoid the 2019 repo crisis. Well, what's he talking about here? If we go back and we look at the 10-year on this is what he's talking about. We saw the same thing here. So yeah, so if you start seeing a trend here, yeah, this is I would say stealth QE. You can call it that. And this is exactly what we started to see. This is the 2019 repo crisis they're talking about. Our banks needed liquidity. We started pushing and leveraging this repo market. This is money we're pushing into their banking system to kind of give them a lifeline. It peaked here in March of 2020. This is important to note because we're starting to see kind of this trend happen right now with the repo markets. They want to avoid it. So what did they have to do? Well, guys, right around that time, March of 2020 is when they turned on the most QE we've ever seen. Okay. So the repo market led quantitative easing, and it was not a small amount of quantitative easing. We had a massive amount, $5 trillion added here on the Fed balance sheet. And of course, that does coincide exactly with the repo crisis. And that is what they're saying here is they expect that we could start seeing as soon as January, them injecting roughly $45 billion a month into the economy. Some of that through the repo, some of that buying short-term treasury bills. So a combination of both. But that is what is expected. And that is what I think we need to pay attention to. Do they make that announcement tomorrow? Does Jerome Powell allude to that? That would be big, right? And it wouldn't be the first time. They say, oh, history doesn't repeat itself. It often rhymes. We've seen this movie before, man. The repo market started getting drawn on. They had to give our banks a lifeline. They turned on QE. And I believe that we could see that starting up. It says if you zoom out, the Fed naturally will start bill purchases. Treasury bills are a year or less duration, so short term. That says they will start bill purchases next year as part of a reverses management operations. It says the economy demand for reserves expands. The Fed will naturally have to meet that demand. There's another analyst here that says the Fed will start purchasing treasury bills at 15 billion to 20 billion monthly pace around the end of the first quarter. So there's different thoughts on this and how it's going to happen. But the big thing I think we really want to, keep an eye on here is, do we start to see this problem mirror what we saw back here? I'll tell you what, if we do, you better believe QE is about to start up. And that is good for risk on assets. That's for damn sure. Woof. All right. Talk a little bit about Bitcoin, guys. Boom. Do you guys remember this? Have you ever seen this website? I mean, I wasn't aware of Bitcoin back then. I knew what Bitcoin was. I had a buddy that was like, hey, you got to buy Bitcoin back in like 2010. I was like, you're crazy. Oh, what the hell? I don't want your internet money. Oh, what a stupid decision that was. But anyway, you could go to this website back in 2011. You could just buy Bitcoin for free. They were like, hey, we want to get Bitcoin in people's hands. Can you imagine? Yeah. What would that be worth today? Well, we're sitting at right around 92,129 right now. So not a bad deal, guys. 5 Bitcoin for free if you're going to a website. Brutal. Here's the deal. Okay, so we hit this. We couldn't close the candle. This is a 4-hour chart. This 93,600 level, 93.5 to 400 or to 94 is a super important level, and we haven't been able to break above it and close above it. The reason why I say this is critical, and this is the guy that I know, that the best TA guy I know, that's been absolutely crushing it. Brandon was talking about this. He's like, look, market structure back. If you look back here, we were in a downtrend. When we broke back up into an uptrend, that was the key level that turned into support. Okay. Same thing. Okay. We saw this downtrend. We're trying to break above that same key level, and we can't do it. We keep getting to it. We keep hitting it. We wicked above, but we haven't been able to close above it. And that's not a good sign. And especially when we look at what's happened after the prior FOMC meetings, we could see a sell-off again tomorrow, man. But I think that's the level to really be paying attention to, and whether or not we can reclaim that to get into an uptrend. Now, I've been very vocal about why I think we have seen the price action we've seen. I mean, we know what happened with Binance back on October 10th. I have a video on my YouTube channel about that. If you haven't watched it, you should. We also have a lot of Bitcoin whales selling the silent IPO. I have a video about that as well, and how they finally had the liquidity to do so. It's still, to me, remarkable. We've gone through all that. Keep in mind, October 10th was over 9 times larger than the worst liquidation event we've seen. Over 9 times larger than FTX, than any other liquidation event. And we're sitting at 92,000. Like, that's pretty crazy. But how about this? This guy, IQ 276, smartest guy, world's highest IQ holder. He says, I have absolutely no doubt my prediction will prove correct. The market seems to be entering a bull cycle. He posted that today. So who is this guy? Meet Young Hoon Kim, the world's highest IQ holder. He says Bitcoin's dip is temporary discount driven by manipulation. I agree with that. So a little bit about this guy. He says he's a South Korean intellectual entrepreneur who was recently gained attention for his extraordinary claims and bold Bitcoin price forecasts. Said in his recent statement, the current dip is not a sign of long-term structural weakness, but rather a temporary discount caused by short-term distortions and alleged market manipulation. That's true. The implication, if the manipulation fades, Bitcoin could resume its upward trajectory, potentially challenging or even setting a new all-time high. He's I never imagined me talking about this guy. It's kind of funny. I've seen his posts. So this is some good background on it, though, that I thought was kind of entertaining. It says, most notably, he claims to have an IQ of 276, which he touts as the highest in the world. Indeed, South Korean media report Kim as known to hold the world's highest IQ record. He even invoked this label in recent videos, saying, as a Christian and world's highest IQ record holder, a guy like signs his freaking tweets, highest IQ, like, gosh, that's like so ridiculous. Anyway, says his exceptional intelligence has reportedly been recognized by organizations like the Giga Society, Mensa, Yale Clinical Neuroscience Community. However, and this is interesting, many still believe that 276 figure vastly exceeds the normal scale of standard IQ tests, and experts note it lies beyond the reliable range of standard tests. For example, one analysis observes an IQ of 276 on an uncommon scoring scale would correspond to a 210 on the usual scale, a level so rare it would occur in one person out of over 7 trillion. So far beyond the human population. So basically, they're saying this guy's full of shit. But I agree with the whole manipulation thing. He also said in late September 2025, he had converted his entire wealth into Bitcoin, calling it the only hope for the future economy. He then predicted a 100-fold increase in Bitcoin's price over the next decade. Bitcoin will grow at least 100-fold and be widely adopted as the ultimate reserve asset. So, you know what? I think some of his predictions will probably come true. But when you see this guy post, take it with a grain of salt. And yes, it is cringe. No humility. This guy is signing his tweets like highest IQ holder. Like, come on, bro. That's so lame. He also said that he expects Bitcoin's going to go to 220,000 back on November 16th within 45 days. But you don't have a lot of time for that to happen, brother. So by the end of the year, he says 220. I don't know about that one. But anyway, at least we have some hopium there a little bit, I guess. But it is nice to see Bitcoin getting back up, moving back up to 92,000. We'll see what happens through the end of the year. I think there we could see a Santa rally. What about Ethereum, 3,300? It's been on a nice little move up. Tell you what, Tom Lee's been buying. You have BitMine. 431.97 million in the last week. You can actually track this stuff, guys. You go to Arkham. You can see all his purchases. So 41.47, 89.31. Yeah, 91.16. Damn. It's a lot. 54.94, 19 million. Damn. A lot of purchases taking place there. Also, the Russell 2000 kind of break out a little bit. I posted this. The Russell 2000 correlation with alts is real, something I've been keeping a close eye on to gauge risk appetite. In fact, there's an article about this. It says here that the founder of Glassnode added that Russell 2000 breakout signals a broad return of investors to risk assets. Several analysts also believe this is a bullish sign. By comparing the altcoin market capitalization with that of the iShares Russell 2000 ETF, it's a fund that tracks U.S. small caps. Says that there's a high correlation. Altcoin market cap often surges when the Russell 2000 breaks above its previous all-time high. In fact, we saw a new all-time high get hit today. So that's good. Says that this pattern appeared in 2017 and again in 2021. So, hey, we could see a potential boom in 2026. Of course, this guy had to rain on our freaking parade over here. Duality Research noted that although the index rose in 2025, the small cap ETFs within the index still recorded net outflows. This contrasts sharply with past rallies, which have typically been accompanied by strong ETF inflows. Says basically, we need to keep an eye. We can't say that this is definitely going to cause alts to move. Says if the risk on sentiment fails to last and the breakout turns into a false move, that negative shift may spread and extend bearish mood in the crypto market. Way to rain on our parade. Real cool. Real cool. But here you go. This is exactly what he's talking about here. This is the all-time high. We did tag it. We actually moved slightly above. We wicked slightly above, but we cannot hold that, man. This is what I'm keeping an eye on. I think the Russell 2000 historically has been a really good indicator. If we can see a breakout and actually start really moving here, I think that is really good for alts. Until then, I'm kind of holding out. We'll see what happens with liquidity. We need liquidity to return. Some other hopium, though. This guy's talking about ETH to Bitcoin ratio. We did break out of this channel. That's good. So we are seeing Ethereum move a bit in comparison to Bitcoin. The other thing I'll say, there's been a lot of USDC printed recently, guys. This is the Mint Authority here. 250 million 6 hours ago, 250 million, 500 million today. We had another 500 million minted yesterday. So $1 billion in the last 24 hours. When you go down the list here, there's been a lot of USDC minted recently. That's good. It's liquidity that can enter into crypto. Let's go. Oh, man. All right. Who's ready for some deep in stuff? Because that's what we're going to talk about next. I know I am. Covered a lot today. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys. My brain is like exploding. Is that where all my circle puts went? Probably. He says, my mom says I am smart. But do you have a 276 IQ, bro? I don't think so, man. It's only 1 in every 7 trillion. That guy is like super smart. Yeah. All right. How about this? Let's talk about some GeoNet stuff. They announced they've been working with Aether for a little while, but they had this viral post I talked about the other day. 2 million views. First time in India from Mike Horton. He goes on to talk about, well, the audio probably doesn't work, so whatever. It's choose 27.6. Nice. Nate Harper in the house with Deep Network. Hello, sir. So anyway, he went on. He had an amazing session in India, man. They have been crushing it over there. They're expanding very quickly. They said that they have India's largest RTK network. They have 1,200 base stations in India now. So that's massive news. And then you look at their growth trajectory. This is, it's like you hear like, oh, 7.2 million they just hit in annual recurring revenue. But I think it's important to look at the growth they've seen. So in less than a year, they've gone from 630,000. They then hit 2 million. They've now hit 7.2 million ARR. Guys, this is pretty massive growth. And if you see that trajectory and they continue on that path and you consider robotics and all the other areas they're getting into, I mean, we could see 18 to 21 million next year, followed by 40 to 60 million in 2027. So that would be huge. And you add the fact that they have a halving event every July. So emissions are going to continue dropping. The token burns eventually in the open market buys, because 80% of this revenue goes to open market buys. We're going to see very quickly the power of the flywheel effect. And I think GeoNet's going to be an example of like one that we look back at. It's like, oh, the signs were there and the buying opportunities were there forever, right? They also are on this token run on the Seeker phone. So this is going to enable them to get a lot more token holders. The big story here is that they don't have any major centralized exchange listings. By getting a lot of token holders through the Seeker phone in this app, it's going to enable them to go to these centralized exchanges and have more leverage in getting listed. Okay, that's the big deal. And moving to Solana is a big part of that too. So, we have this project that has everything that you look for in a project. The only thing really that's been missing is centralized exchange listings, and they're working on that. So I think GeoNet is primed, guys. Silencio, this is their CEO. He's coming on. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but my space next week. But he came out today and said they're thinking about paying users fixed hourly rates in stable coins. So we haven't seen a DePIN project, to my knowledge, do that. Those holding SLC, that's the Silencio token balance, will be able to earn a much higher rate, fixed hourly rate. So there's utility of the token there. If you're a token holder, you earn a higher hourly rate. The big deal for them, guys, is like they have a lot of demand now. They need more supply. That's a big reason why they are launching these campaigns. Why is my screen not sharing? Here we go. It's a big reason why they're launching these campaigns, 10x campaigns. So it says we've launched a new set of 10x campaigns across major languages. So you have all the languages listed here. If you can speak any of those, guys, go in there and check it out, man. They also have a pretty good tutorial that they posted earlier about getting onto their app. But basically, you just go in. They're collecting. They want 1,000 hours of per language here that's listed. You go to the app, you can speak into it, and you earn money. Like, it's that easy. So pretty cool concept there. They're absolutely crushing it. And as I mentioned earlier, I am bringing Silencio on and their CEO on next Tuesday onto the Deep and Connected Space, episode 35. So guys, make sure to set your reminders for that. This should be a good session. Amir with Helium came out today. Speak to earn. That's right. That is right. So Amir with Helium came out today and talked about a change in the way they're working with AT&T. And I think this makes a lot of sense. For newly asserted hotspots, they're now going to have a 2-week period where AT&T can offload for free, use those hotspots, kind of test out the different locations and determine which ones make the most sense for them to work with. I think they're also, if you have a hotspot that hasn't been onboarded with AT&T, I believe you will be included in this. But this is a good way for AT&T to vet hotspots, and they're not going to be just shooting in the dark, basically. And I think it makes a lot of sense. So this is their official announcement about it. So obviously big news. And other news, they gave a shout out to Blockworks. By the way, follow Blockworks if you don't already. They do some really good work, man, about their dashboard that they have here for Helium. So I'll just take you through some of the metrics, but highly encourage you guys to check out their different dashboards. You can see here the revenue. So, just recently they got to $64,000 in revenue daily. It's a big deal. You see the terabytes that are being transferred. They hit 78 terabytes the other day. So that's obviously freaking crazy. Is there any other things down here? Daily active users. They just hit a new milestone at over 2 million daily active users on the network. So things are moving in the right direction. If you click on the financial tab here, you'll see they've gotten to over $20 million in annualized revenue. Net deflationary. So they actually have a better breakdown here. Here's the 0, right? So this is day to day. Anything below this line is deflationary. So you'll see they've had several days now that are in net deflationary. So huge things, man. They have a lot of different metrics to look at here. So highly encourage you guys again to follow Blockworks. Check out the Helium dashboard. Akash Network. They had a recent post. I think they posted this today, talking about how this Cornell student who couldn't get any GPUs from Amazon trained his model on Akash and sold his company to NVIDIA. That's freaking nuts, man. That's pretty cool. Some of the metrics they've been hitting. So they hit $36,700 in revenue for this is last week. They have 553 GPUs on the network with a pretty high utilization rate, 46.29% used. They also are about to introduce a new burn and mint equilibrium. So that's going to give a lot of utility to the token. We've seen other projects doing this, like Helium, for example. High Mapper is another one doing open market buys and burns. We obviously know GeoNet does it, Rover does it. So there's a trend we're seeing. I think it's a welcome trend for deep end projects. So Akash doing the right things. I'm bringing their founder on in January. Super excited about that. 375 AI has now observed 300 million vehicles with their edge. So those are the cameras they're putting on the different billboards across the country. They also announced some new challenges. In particular, New York is where they're starting this. Now, not sure what that means exactly, but it might have something to do with this here. Hopefully the audio comes through. It's a quick clip we'll play.
Customers at a time. So we've signed and we'll announce our first partnership there shortly. And that's one of these data exchanges which have McDonald's and Spotify and so on as existing American Express as existing customers.
So they have a huge customer announcement coming with a marketing company. Glad the audio came through. With the likes of McDonald's, with American Express, you name it. Could this have something to do with the update, the pilot they're doing on this app in New York? I think there could be a connection there. We'll see. We will see. Aoki Network. They just had their second store from their paid. So Aoki just had their second store from their paid US pilot. So they helped them with setting up the first store. They said this time they had to send 0 people from Aoki. They were able to set it up themselves. So freaking awesome. That is how you scale. So just recently, they had their first paid pilot for their cactus product here in the US. Aoki continuing to absolutely crush it. What about Ex Machina? Ex Machina I'm bringing on, by the way, next Thursday, doing a video interview with them and a few other robotics partners of theirs. So that's exciting. They just had their Bot 7 proposal executed. Okay. So this was a transaction into 1X Technologies. So this is a project that is pulling capital, and they have votes on what to invest that capital into. So freaking crazy, man. You can actually see their treasury overview here. So check this out. They have a breakdown of Figure, right? Agility, Apptronic. You can go down here. You can actually see their shares, their holdings. In this case, they just closed this 1X, $800,000 invested. But you see some of these, man. They invested $450,000 into Apptronic. It's already 103% ROI. Their original purchase is already worth $911,000. This is the power of investing in an emerging sector like robotics. But most people don't have 450K sitting around, right? So by going in with Ex Machina, you can pool your assets with other people and get exposure, get these types of investments, that you wouldn't be able to on your own. And these are the crazy returns, man. Like I think this project is going to go absolutely bananas. So super exciting stuff. They also just approved their votes, over 19 million votes and over 96% approval to get their TGE prep underway. So TGE is coming. That's going to be amazing for the Deus token. Congrats to the Ex Machina team that continue to crush it. And guys, if you don't think the robots are coming, check out this freaking video.
This humanoid robot works a 10-hour shift 7 days a week. It's the first humanoid robot to work an actual job. It works inside the BMW factory building the new X3 car. And it's amazing. It's been working here for the last 6 months. And they've been testing it to see if they can expand it out to further factories and have this work full-time on an ongoing basis. And it looks like that's the plan. Now, other car manufacturers have showed a lot of interest. They're not saying which ones, but they're showing that this robot's quite good at learning. So as it learns something new, it doesn't auto-update, and every single one learns that one thing. And that's not just within this factory. That's worldwide. You could have one of these robots on one side of the world and another on the other side of the world. And if one of them learns something, the other one will instantly learn that. That's progress that will never end. They always update, they always learn, and they don't lose any of what they've learned. This is amazing. And people should be so worried about it. And it's not coming in 10 years or 15 years. It's right now.
Guys, it is coming. And that is why I spend so much time on robotics. And that is why I think this is the next AI move, man. We saw AI just go crazy the last few years. I think robotics is next. With that said, guys, I posted this video, my deep in update for Q4 2025. Give it some love. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like, share this stream, but also it's pinned to the top of my X profile. Make sure to like it and give it some love there as well. Y'all, appreciate you guys. This is a late night stream. It was fun. Covered a lot of ground. And I'm going to go chill. It is 9:45 here. But I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for showing me the love. I look forward to seeing you in the next stream. Y'all have a fantastic night. Peace.